coming in. As you know, the ability to effectively compare an offer. By the way, I need to acknowledge, as you should, VIP this morning. Becky has had a $1.1 million month junior salary. And congratulations. And she wasn't even here for
half of it. Half the month I was gone.
So that just shows the potential, you know, and you get out of real estate, which you're willing to put into it. Hey, Brent, how you doing? And Brent came back from a trip to Alaska with Frank, right? And wonderful trip. So you do, you know, many times we do get business falls in our lap, but frankly, most of it we have to work at. Those of you who've been in, you know, for a while now. So it's important if the professional athletes recognize the need to practice. You know, Michael Jordan, he was known for his work ethic, one of the most talented, naturally talented. LeBron James and so forth. So these people work hard, and we know people like us in our profession must work with a similar effort. It's not just learning, but the most important thing is to apply what's learned. And how do you do that is repetition, reinforcement. It becomes easier, frankly, all the time. You know, the discussion points, and one of the things we're going to do today is the first roughly hour and a half. I'll go ahead and perform like preparing an offer for a hypothetical buyer. Remember, good seeing you. I'm glad that you're out of teaching for the summer, right?
Well, technically,
You're still doing some.
I'm working on my master's, so.
Oh, all right. Well, you haven't left the profession, and good luck on your upcoming closing.
Thank you.
See, that's a good example where you can have another job, and still do real estate, and still, you know. So, with that in mind, I'll model, if I was actually preparing as a buyer's agent with a buyer, to show you how you might consider. And, however, it's only going to be 80% of what happens in real life, because I'm going to go ahead and bounce off and make a summary tip or suggestion for you rather than talk directly to a buyer. For purposes of that, Michael, I'm just going to use you as the buyer in the hypothetical when I go through it. And actually, I prepared 3 different scenarios. Real life scenarios. One's 101, offer writing, preparation, presentation. And the presentation part of it is typically something that's not really covered. And when I first got into real estate a number of years ago, it was really rare that I would see real estate agents doing anything associated with negotiation, presentation, negotiation. And I'll give you some suggestions. And what amounts to about 46 years of dealing with contracts now right out of college. And some things I've learned and I've practiced in real estate that will cause you, hopefully, to get more deals. And it's unbelievable how many missed opportunities agents, they don't even recognize what they could and should be doing to help not only their client, but also themselves. So we'll go through that. And then we'll break off after our 5-minute break to give you a chance to go ahead and one of you act as an agent, one of you act as a buyer. I've got scenarios, real life scenarios. The 100 level course is what we'll go over this morning, because some of you may choose to go ahead and work that same scenario. But if some of you have written several offers and got contracts and closings, I've got a 300 level scenario that deals with your buyer having presented previously, been working with the buyer for 3 months, and they're getting frustrated. They didn't trust you, even though you had a buyer consultation second, but they haven't really taken some of your recommendations. And now they're getting frustrated because 4 offers you did for them have been rejected because of the seller's market and a more challenging situation. But finally, they're willing to hear some of your tips to optimize the chances that. Good morning, Aaron. How are you doing?
Yeah, right.
Good, thanks. So again, you select after that scenario for a couple of hours. What I'm going to do is whoever performs as a buyer in the scenario, the role playing, I'd like to have the buyer's agent is going to be the one who's really going to learn the most in those role playing sessions. But the buyer, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and make some notes and also to give some feedback, as if you were a buyer, kind of critiquing, but being constructive. and sharing with them, you're really strong in this area. I was really confused if I was a first-time home buyer. The way you described or explained something really became clear, okay? But here, it didn't quite, your explanation didn't quite clarify things for me, so this is what I might suggest you do. So I'm going to ask you to be a helper, a feedback giver to the person in this room. And then after a short lunch, then we flip roles. So each of you have a chance to be an agent and a buyer. Those of you that can stay. But it's really valuable. I'd rather have you practice, don't you agree, in a positive environment amongst peers, rather than in front of the client and him and haw, and they're thinking, oh gosh, I'm investing all my trust in the person who's doesn't know what they're doing, obviously, because they're fumbling, and you see how that can really, so this, hopefully, and don't view this as the panacea. It's a repetitive kind of situation. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and pass out the first skill practice. I'm sure I can have a copy. Yeah, wait. How many we got there? 3, 6, 8, 9. And those of you that have your laptop, you can work off of that, or those of you that don't have a hard copy and you want to go ahead and make some notes on it, I've got some extra copies. Who needs a purchase sale agreement? You got one? Aaron, you got one? Okay. Michael?
I'll need one.
Okay. Good seeing you, Rusty.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Sure, I'm gonna stay on and see how the electrician's doing.
Okay,
Make
thanks.
sure we're not gonna go out.
Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to start you because the most meaningful part of this training, it's one thing to have lecture. All of you have been through, pre-license, contract subject, and then you have the evolution course for new affiliates. Many of you are taught in that course. We go through, I emphasize and highlight certain things you really need to really remember. I can't cover everything for a period of time here in that class. And then some of you have already mentioned new affiliate member orientation. There's a 3-hour segment on contract writing that I used to teach, and it started putting the trees. Some of you have, how many of you actually have had written real estate offers? Okay, great. How many of you have not been? So you get, okay, you have 3, okay. So that's good. And because of that, that's the reason why I developed different levels of scenarios. One is.
Is it standard process? I mean, this is my first time in the real world doing this.
Yeah.
I had like 6 offers verbally.
Uh-huh.
Is that standard practice?
Now, usually what happens in real estate, of course,
I know everything has to be written, but is that in the real world, is that?
Typically in the real world, many times, not more so it's really used in the seller's market, but in the buyer's market in particular, you might have some who use their leverage in the buyer's market to say, when the buyer's thinking this offer and the listing price is way up here and there's a chasm of the Grand Canyon apart in price, what your buyer's thinking. And an agent like me who's representing a buyer who is lucky can go ahead and present an offer $50,000 less, I might slow down my buyer and say, now, these are the pros and cons. I'm going to go ahead and do whatever you want. But my recommendation, rather than you and I spend 2 hours to go over an offer preparation, knowing how far we're apart in this market, I might suggest to get your authorization. Let me go ahead and give the salient points of your offer, what you're thinking, to Michael as a listing agent to cover with the seller. If they're willing to do that, is it worthwhile for us to take the time to present a formal written offer? And that eliminates the potential of wasting time. And you could also use, by the way, is there a letter of intent document in TER that can be used instead of just a verbal? Yes. And my buyer is thinking offering $250,000. This price is $300,000. They're thinking about having this due diligence period or this closing period and just one type of inspection, clean offer. Are we on the same playing field to warrant pursuit prepare a formal written offer, see how that can be
So
used.
basically, they just grasping at straws.
Well, typically that's what happens. Hey, if
They just
anybody
wanna
else
see the
experienced the
talk.
same thing Michael was.
That's all they're doing is just trying to see if you'll talk.
Yeah.
That's all
Now,
they're doing.
in a market where it's a seller's market we're in,
Mhm.
Mr. Buyer, if you were to go ahead and present this offer way down here when you and I have agreed, the market analysis I performed for you, really a fair price is where it way up here, where the house we're selling. If you're talking about $50,000 less than, you run the risk of what? Insulting. Yeah, insulting the seller. And through my years of experience, sometimes even if the seller said, they not only would reject, why are these people even wasting my time for God's sake? I'm insulted. If that buyer then presents an offer that they have a great leap for mankind to go ahead and come up $50,000 at full price, let's say, and I've seen sellers say, not only no, but hell no. I'm not going to deal with that kind of person. They're going to tip me off to such a level. It's a principle thing. So a discussion point. I would recommend always, about the same thing, recommend if you have that verbal request to present for those reasons. But then, if you are a listing agent, what are you going to do as advice to your seller? Mr. Seller, we've got this price that's being offered verbally. There's nothing enforceable about it. You know, I suspect this is what's going on. We want to see how negotiable you might be. But by the same token, it's hard for you to give a valid response because of what reasons. If I was a seller,
Bad at all.
yeah, you, not only that, but also, how could you say yea or nay? Because there's a lot of other economic considerations and non-economic considerations. Are they gonna, want an extended inspection period? Are they gonna want to have all these different conditions of sale? How far out? Or how quickly would the closing cost, closing date be? Do they want to get possession or stay in the house after closing to make sure the closing occurred? All these things are, so how can a seller really make a decision? So does that answer? We'll probably give you more information than that.
You should be good. He found the broker right away that controls that one, so he shouldn't have to turn anything else off.
Great, thank you so much.
And you're recording,
Sounds good. If I forget, what my intention is, thank you for setting up, Becky, is after the modeling session and we break before we get on the role playing, 10:30ish or so, somebody stop the recording at that point. So, sound good?
all right, see you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Bye.
All right. So with that in mind, we're going to start with, you get a call, I'm looking at your, I gave you a buyer scenario and a buyer's agent. And let's go ahead and to make it a little easier and sort of go fluently. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and Michael Smith here is going to be the buyer. So the data I've given him, and this will be helpful for you in role playing. Does everybody have the presentation 101? So the buyer is being told they're a first-time home buyer. That person did take the recommendation from their agent to get a pre-approval letter from the lender, and they got approval up to $250,000 maximum purchase price. Everybody following? And your agent, as a buyer, showed you a property 5 days ago at 123 Main Street, Murfreesboro, and you called your agent wishing to meet to prepare an offer to purchase in the next hour. Okay? Said property on Main Street is considered to be in move-in and ready, and is listed for $240,000. Denise, you with me on the, we're going through the presentation 101? Okay. Your lender said that you would be required to have a minimum of 3.5% down payment. What does that tell you? What kind of loan?
FHA.
Yes. But you are confused by other things the lender discussed with you, other than your spouse's income cannot be considered due to poor credit. What does it also tell you? So you could have a husband and wife, and it is possible and very likely, in this case, definitely, you don't have one of the spouse's names as the purchaser because the other person can't be used on line 3. But also the confusion from talking with lender. Do you think first-time home buyers many times really get fuzzy, and they don't have a clue? Geez, closing costs and these other things and lender fees, and I'm really. So you as an agent in preparing an offer, sometimes you have to address that. So again, that's the real life part of it. The buyer saved $11,000 to apply this home purchase loan, And I'll put that was put in intentionally, because in this case, I'll tell you, the punchline is, what do most people think when they're told 3.5% down payment required for the loan they're going after? If they have that, they get more approval. Are they thinking at all about closing costs, prepaids? Are they thinking about the recommendation that you're going to have as an agent that recommend strongly a licensed inspection done? What is the average cost on the first-time home buyer top? It may be $350. Cash, buyers don't have to pay for it even before closing, right? How about termite inspection? Typically, our buyer paid. We're not talking about a cash buyer here, it's a loan requirement. How about appraisers? Most lenders require an appraisal fee being paid up front. Yeah. So if that buyer has only got enough for 3.5% of whatever contract sale price, you're going to discover immediately what? Mr. Buyer, I want to frame an offer, make some suggestions that is going to be doable. And at this point in time, you're going to have to ask the seller to pay all the closing costs and prepaids. Let me go ahead and let you know what that includes. And in this case, it might be roughly another 3.5% or a little more if you don't have. Also, you would like to close as a buyer as soon as possible, but you do have the flexibility to extend the closing date further out. If it helps your offer to be accepted by the seller, well, that's good to know, right? You do not wish to assume any lease on the seller's security system, so I'll reaffirm what you've been covered in the contract writing class, how to handle that, security systems and these kind of leased items, because in this case, they may have a friend who they can get a security monitoring system for $50 a month, and they look at the property disclosure and said the current owner is paying $39 a month. Yeah, I don't want to be obligated to another year and a half. You follow me? Also, you trust your agent's market analysis. So unlike the one I just described to you in the 300 level scenario, this is one that does have faith in your ability to do a CMA, and they're going to be listening and taking your recommendations. And they're willing to offer a full price offer to the seller in this case because they had one other offer that you prepared for them that was rejected, and they're getting frustrated even with one offer. You do not intend to ask the seller to pay before home warranty, but you want to have a home inspection performed. And as they're somewhat risk averse by nature, they have 3 daughters, age 3, 5, and 7. And the buyer are parents of and they're highly protective of them. Now, why did I interject that? This has caused me to have, I can't tell you how many referrals.
Oh, man.
Yeah, how many referrals I've gotten from people who said, geez, Lucky, you just showed how selfish you are. I didn't have a clue the Tennessee Registry of Sexual Offenders was. And now that you've described it, you're right. If a neighbor introduced me, welcome to the neighborhood, first day after closing, looked out the back door and said, you have daughters, what are they, age 3, 5, 7, whatever? Did you realize that the neighbor next door spent 7 years in jail molesting daughters about your ages? The first call that new homeowner calls is going to be to who?
A
Real estate agent. I trusted you. You came out and told me all the good things you. That little factor said, hey, it only takes 5 to 10 minutes. Go ahead, pull up online if you want to go ahead and check it out for yourself. Don't do that as an agent for them, right? Let them satisfy, because everybody's definition, is different on it. But so do you agree these are real life scenarios? And then the buyer's agent, real quickly, your first time home buyer and call and express to meet with you, home property shown 5 days ago. Why did I have that scenario? Because that's very likely. And they say, Lucky, thank you for showing me the property 5 days ago. We have interest in that one, and the 7th of the 8th house you showed on the same day. We're going to think about it and pray about it, and as soon as we make a decision, we'll give you a call. 5 days hence. There's still some agents who get ready to prepare and spend 2 hours preparing an offer, presented it, and all they do is click share on the dot loop and say, that's another thing that's a mistake. Don't ever do that. Click and share, the person may not open up an email for a day. And then guess what? You've got an expired offer, potentially. And there's no selling point there. But then the worst thing is, the next day after we showed 5 days ago, it was under contract. And why waste everybody's time? Moving on, this person, the agent is aware they got a pre-approval letter up to $250 purchase price maximum. You call the listing agent. How many of you always do that? Yes. You call the listing agent, yeah, I've got an interested, serious buyer, so it's 5 days, is the home still available? Yes. Are there any competing offers at this time? Morning, James. And hopefully, in this scenario, the answer is no. Do you have anything that you can share, because I don't know what my buyer is going to present in offer that can help me to help my buyer and ultimately help your seller? Are economics more important to your seller or non-economic considerations? And what am I referring to here? Before I get over sign in there. The non-economics could be a request for a delayed closing, or stay in the house for 3 days, getting possession back, or whatever it is. Does that make sense? I literally about a year and a half ago had one multiple offer situation, and the listing agent said, "Lucky, you are the only agent that asked that question." And just so happened, the seller that morning, when we started getting some multiple offers, my seller shared with me that they're getting frustrated because they want to have a simultaneous closing, but they made offers and they're getting frustrated because they don't have anything on the contract to purchase. They'd like to have more time, take some pressure off. Because your buyer was able to not only listen, but they accommodated in their offer to close 4 months out. That was the trigger, which caused your buyer's offer at lower pay, purchase price offer, to be accepted. Good idea? Yeah. Moving on, we're into the buyer's agent part. Going over the model here in a minute. There's been 2 previous buyer offers, but both were rejected. But one or two. That's too low by the seller. That means economics they're sensitive to, right? You prepared a CMA, which suggests that this property may appraise as high as $250,000. It's listed for sale at $240,000. Your buyers are somewhat confused by the lender. We've already covered that. You need to ascertain how much money your buyer has to apply to this purchase. Meaning, you got to have enough for a down payment, of course. We already ascertained it's going to be a FHA. But even if, closing cost prepaid, termite inspection, and so forth. And I explained it's close to the family. And the reason why I had a little more detail there is it's going to allow you to say, hey, Mr. Barber, with your authorization, knowing that we're in a multiple offer competing situation, one of the things I spent time and money on to help people like yourself to earn your trust is so that you refer me to not only your future business, but also your other family members. So with that in mind, sometimes when you have an occupied house, which is a seller occupied property, sometimes a letter from the heart is the impetus to cause your offer to be accepted in deference to other lower offers. I didn't know that, Michael, as a buyer. Can you tell me more about that, Lucky? Well, Michael, think about many times when a seller has whatever reasons causing them to want to sell, they're leaving behind probably a close friend next door or in the neighborhood. They would rather, and sometimes willing to take less money if they get some knowledge of who the buyer is when they get these offers. And again, that may be an impetus to cause that lower offer economically to be accepted. Again, a lot of times people don't think about these things. So with that in mind, give that call, and Michael said, Lucky, that 5 days ago we saw the property, 123 Main Street, Murfreesboro. I'd like to have you get together as soon as possible, preferably within the hour, to have you prepare an offer. Can you do that? Yes. Thanks. Let me, with your authorization, I'm going to go ahead and call the listing agent and ask these questions we just covered. Is the house still on the market? And you already covered the bullet points on that. So then I let him know, yeah, it's worthwhile to come on anytime. I remind him, remember in the buyer consultative step that we had 3 months ago, I said there's something called earnest money. I gave you a copy of the purchase sale agreement if you want to read through it. If you did, that's okay. We're going to go through it in detail. But bring in an earnest money checkbook kind of thing to have so I'll remind you, I said, now in some cases you won't have the pre-approval letter, and you'll ask them to bring it in with you. So what do you do at that point? You got an hour they're going to be in. Here's you learn in contract writing class, you could actually do this on part of paper and ink, person sitting next to you. You could do it on your laptop, pull up Outlook. You got segmented, sales packet. You select the ones that apply. Some of the stuff we're going to go through in the first subroom, you could actually pre-populate. A lot of the stuff up here, hold open the buyer name just to make sure. I'll talk about it in a second, but you can fill all this stuff in. Remember, this is a house in Murfreesboro. Is there a instrument number in line 9? No, just another tip. You want to make sure you eliminate blanks. You follow me? And again, I apologize for going real quickly, but I'd rather get you kind of refreshed on the content of the first subroom, which most of you have that already. I'll emphasize certain things, as I'm doing right now, but then I'd really rather have you do some practice. So, at this point in time, let's say I, as your agent, Michael, have not previously done the CMA up to this point. Why? I would not recommend, if you're showing 8 properties 5 days ago, you don't know which one they're going to be serious about, right? So why waste your time? Now, anybody that expressed interest in doing it, you could actually do the onesie-twosie prior to this point. But many times it's not unusual to actually do that CMA while they're coming in, knowing that Michael may say, hey, Lucky, I want to go ahead and maximize my I don't want to overpay, but what do you recommend is a fair price? So be prepared for that. So how are we prepared? We will CMA. Have that ready for you. And then, so at this point in time, Michael gets in the office. We sit down. Let's say it's an example where he's not in White House, Tennessee, and at his computer while I'm opening up my computer at this end and we're going through this online. Let's say it's an example where he and I are together. So, Michael, thank you for being in. One of the things that's first time I want to remind you that anything that we put in this purchase sale agreement, it's not going to be a contract until it's accepted in writing and delivered to the other party. But it's to be viewed as a serious document because if the seller agrees to terms and we actually have a binding agreement date, if you back out or they back out, then there's legal consequences. Secondly, even though I'm hopefully trying to work very hard to be a trusted real estate consultant for life, this is you're the decision maker. You're the boss. I'm going to give you pros and cons. You need to make the decisions, not me. And I say that because, I've been in business 25 years and I teach this stuff. You may think as though you'll do whatever I say. Well, I may give you some opinions, but ultimately you make the decision because I may be more risk-taking than you are on certain things. You see, so I will go through that. So with that in mind, usually the line 3, Michael, I would recommend matching what your name is on the driver's license. Todd, as Rusty would comment, that's the way they do it. I think it's a good practice. In this case, there might be some times where the pre-approval letter may have a different, hopefully you get it matched up correctly. In this case, we're only going to have Michael, and I will explain. Your spouse doesn't have the credit or job, income, whatever is not going to be used, and that's what pre-approval supports. And based upon what the lender is saying, and we'll get down to this later, is, and at this point, I'm going to save time by not going through all these lines 4 through 10. I would tell Michael, please check my work. I don't want to have a typo. So it's 123 Main Street, Murfreesboro, 3712, whatever it is. And I may have put down line 10. What do I normally suggest? Michael, I would say the tax ID number is this. If you're dealing with a house on acreage, you could put minimum square footage of 4,000 square feet, with 10 minimum acres or whatever. You can more fully describe, or a house that has 6 outbuildings, line 10 is a good place to put that description. Moving on, this next paragraph, Michael, you'll see all the things that have been pre-printed. Another thing I will say, if you don't want anything that's pre-printed can be modified or deleted or clarified. Some agents don't know that even. But to explain, you need to explain it to the buyer. Now, you briefly go over this stuff, and sometimes I make jovial. I said he even has got a entry key. Line 17, that wasn't in there until about 3 years ago. When a seller refused to give the keys to the house, that closing to the buyer. the seller was ticked off, the buyer's unreasonable request under the error period and so forth. So we need to just go through this. In this case, for purposes of your role-playing blank, I didn't tell you that, let's assume it's a two-car garage, and the property condition disclosure had a remote control, the left garage door open for 2 remotes. So you want to fill in any blanks. What other items, Michael, can you think of that might be here? My modus operandi in showing properties to 8 houses 5 days ago, I would have been making notes. This is the house that has 2 refrigerators. You got a Samsung in the kitchen, and you got a Whirlpool in the garage. And although this scenario doesn't account for this, a buyer may ask, Michael, I'd like to have you ask for the refrigerator. And then a lot of agents, they don't have a clue. Number one, it's all a blur anyway. Like 5 days ago plus 8 houses, you can't remember all this stuff, right? Unless you're Harry or Lane, memory instructor I took in college. And about 5 years after that, I couldn't remember his name. No, I'm just making that up. But that's how I do it. I suggest you do it too. There might be other personal properties. So here I would ask Michael, is there anything else that you want to add to this area? My suggestion, Michael, is I don't agree necessarily with the attorneys who drafted this language, TR attorneys, because they say all the kitchen appliances. What line is it? It's line 15, built-in kitchen appliances. It could be arguable. You know, many times, customarily, if the seller wants to and intends to keep a refrigerator, and they intend to keep a washer and dryer that happens to be in the kitchen, little closet. So in my mind, the biggest thing to avoid is what? In a contract writing. Ambiguity, things that are unclear. So here, my suggestion is, Michael, let's go ahead and spell out the things to be included in that regard. So moving on, any question about that? Michael, is there anything that you saw on property that you want to exclude from the sale? And I didn't have it in your scenario or data, but it could be you want to best ensure that the seller removes the 10 rusty junk cars on blocks, you know, at their expense for our closing, or whatever it is. Or Mr. Seller, did you notice in the, excuse me, Mr. Buyer, Michael, did you notice that the seller intends to keep, they'd like to keep their master bedroom curtains as it matches their bedspread? Are you okay with that? If so, we can go ahead and exclude it so that the seller immediately knows it's okay. Okay? Moving on, leased items. In this case, what is your feelings about leased items? That security system, Michael. What is your feelings about that? So I gave you some data so you can work with the role playing, and that is, you tell Lucky, I really don't want to be obligated. And given that response, I'm going to go ahead and check off that little box. Any little box that's not checked off does not include you. You don't want to miss that. Do not wish to assume the leased item. Let's go up. Purchase price. Michael, here I've been taught that great instructor that I don't know. I'm going to ask you not the purchase price you want to offer, because I'm going to ask you what is the value that you want the seller to make a decision on. And why do I ask you that way? Because if you start asking the seller at the seller's expense certain things, you may be thinking an offer of $240, and then when we start asking for a home warranty or $3,000 carbon allowance or $6,000 applied to the buyer's closing costs, then what the seller makes a decision on is what? About $240 here. And usually a buyer says, well, that's a good point. In this case, and I'm going to, as your agent, let me give a little more clarity. The way I read the pre-approval letter, 3.5% down payment, it tells me it's an FHA loan. Oh yeah, that's what I remember. And frankly, Michael tells me, I was confused on other things, prepaids and whatever. Well, let me go ahead and help. I'm your agent, I'm helping you. I'm not a loan expert, but I can say what I think is being told is, let me first ask, how much cash do you have in reserve to apply to this purchase? And it tells me that you probably are thinking 3.5% down payment. Take 3.5% times
$87.50.
There you go, thank you, $87.50. And Michael says, and I would ask as your agent, or you think that's all you would need, because you got pre-approved for that type of loan, so that's the minimum down payment, you got that. And if Michael says, no, I got a little bit more than that, because in this case, he's got,
2,200.
11,000,
Yeah, 11,000 total.
okay, 11,000 total. And I may say, one key principle is maintain or enhance personal self-esteem. My compliments to you and your spouse, because it's unusual to have the first-time homebuyers to save that amount of money. However, the reason why I'm asking you is not to get too personal, but I'm going to try to recommend how to frame an offer that's doable. Do you know real estate agents out there that seem like they get a lot of things written and under contract, but half of them don't close? Oh yeah, that's the reason why I was recommended to you. You know, and the reason being is they don't really think about some of the things that are almost impossible to. So now that I know that, I'm going to recommend not only you have to have that $87.50 down payment, but there's what's called our closing costs and prepaids. Prepaids are taxes and insurance. They're collected up front. That's added as part of your payment. And on an FHA loan, I can tell you that it's going to be roughly in this price range, plus or minus 3.5% more. And you don't have to know how to explain that by memory like I do. You could just steer them to, because if a buyer asks, Michael asks, well, why are they so much? For God's sakes, geez. Steer them to the definition. Here, good question. Go ahead and read that paragraph. This is my tip to you. Until you learn that it's a loan application fee, credit fee, appraisal, title expenses, lender fees, loan origination if applicable, could be an office transaction fee for a real estate firm. You see how you'll get fluent with that. Well, you don't have to be fluent necessarily to answer that question in the front end because you have so much more to remember. But that's a tip I would say.
I have a question. Okay, if the bank gives them that pre-approval letter, right?
Mhm.
If they qualify for like first-time home buyers and all that stuff,
Yeah.
assistance stuff, would it be in that letter also or not?
Sometimes that's when just asking open-ended questions. More often they do the good lenders. I'll tell you have to be careful with what the words used by the lenders. There's some people who use pre-approval, and they just spend 10 minutes over the phone. They spend much assets and debts. And I check and it's not run through underwriting. And these scenarios goes into what's the strongest thing as an agent we would like to have
A letter of approval. So you have three.
what kind of approval?
Approval from the lender, a letter of approval. So you have pre-qualification, pre-approval, and then letter of approval.
And there's two types of pre-approval.
Underwriting.
Yeah.
The pre-approval through underwriting is the best.
Mm-hmm.
Even that's not a guarantee. And why is that? Because you can have a strong, highly qualified, good quality loan originator and sometimes they are not allowed in their process to run through. They may have a certain opinion on what's going to be pre-approved as an originator, but the underwriter, the nameless faces underwriters that all part of the book, has a different opinion. It could be 180 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the examples of those who I taught CNA, payment shock, going from rental of $550 to $850 PITI, mortgage purchase loan, too much of a gap, denied loan, 1 day before closing, pre-approved, and, I didn't have the ability. That's the whole person we sat down months ago to get pre-approved from a buyer. So be aware of those kind of things, but does that help, Cameron, not all lenders get pre-approval through
Oh, yeah.
underwriting.
No. Yeah.
So thank you for bringing it up. There's manual underwrite approval,
And then there's physical underwriting.
and there's 3 types of automated underwriting. We'll cover that in CNA. GUS, Guaranteed Underwriting Service, LP, Loan Prospector, and
When you say GUS is the more commonly used one,
I don't know.
that's
I've seen them all.
Yeah.
LP, GUS, and Loan Prospector. What's the other one? It's escaping me right now. But in any event, that would be the ideal. Now, is this something you should not go forward with if you don't have that? No. It just strengthens. Mr. Michael, thank you for taking my recommendation. Actually, you asked for a recommendation for lenders. I gave you 3. I knew that these 3 actually have a process to allow pre-approved front line. So when I present your offer later today, I'm gonna emphasize that to the listing agent to make sure the seller knows that in competing with other buyers, chances are, many of the other buyers maybe even have stronger economic offers. It's only a pre-qualification. It's not nearly, and if you were a seller, what would you rather have? Somebody who's further along and less likelihood of things going sour. So I'm gonna go ahead and spell out, well, I'm gonna suggest you have the money available for an inspection. And these are things that you may have to do preparing this offer. Say, you figure out the appraisal, what the appraisal typical cost. Yeah, we put 500 or 450 plus or minus in this area. Also, termite, the preprint language is buyer's expense, can be negotiated. Do you remember, by the way, scenario number 2, VA loans, they do not allow the vet to pay for a termite inspection as a buyer. So that preprinted part needs to be clarified, actually changed. But in this scenario, it's an FHA loan, and then you might have added $50 and say you can get them for $35. They vary. For termite. Pardon?
Okay.
So I'll be telling my buyer, Michael, you got already $900. And then earnest money. I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you have earnest money serious enough to go ahead and put yourself, Michael, as a buyer in the shoes of the seller. And if you're attempting to buy a $250,000, or in this case, at this price, $240,000, are they going to take you seriously if you put up $50? I wouldn't, probably. So, now, unless I found out that they won the Tennessee lottery, and it's verified that they did, and the disbursement hasn't been made yet. So that's, so earnest money, how many of you know, well, Michael asked me as the agent, how much should I put up? What would you recommend, Bucky, as your agent, as my agent? Half to 1% is typically what you see. The higher you get, the more strength you have. But understand, you could lose that. So what happens if they put, roughly 0.5%? How much is that? Of $250,000, $450,000, right? So why am I doing this? We're totaling this up, 11, you got $2,150 on top of the down payment. And you're looking at just under, yeah, isn't that something? So you see the value? And I immediately say, Michael, the reason why we went through this exercise in time is it clarifies why you came in here thinking as though 11,000 is going to really do it. But somebody's going to have to pay for the closing costs, prepaids, and it tells me to tell you that you really need to ask the seller to pay all of your closing costs. The other option is you could waive the cost and save the money on buyer's inspection, but I'm not going to recommend that you consider doing that.
So what was your recommendation on the earnest money? You said 1/2 of 1%?
They ask you what typically do you see as an agent. All the contracts see usually runs 0.5 to 1% of the contract sale price.
Yeah, you go over 1%, the lender starts asking for a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
If you go over 1% of the purchase price, the lender's going to require them to send bank statements over to make sure that they have the money come out of their account and everything. I ran into that a couple of times last year. So.
Well, good point.
Yeah, when you make a competitive offer, always let your people know more than 1% of the purchase price of earnest money. So if it's $200,000, if they gave them $2,500, the lender might require a few more documents on that. I'll make sure I can look better.
The reason why they're doing that is, they're sensitive to debt to income ratios and where they're getting the money, is it seizing money, and all this other stuff. Generally speaking, the investors, as far as the approval process, like to see the buyer that does have the ability to have a strong earnest money. Now, not at all. I had one that actually had the full purchase price put up, and I'm thinking, oh, geez, you got a risk of losing all that. He said, luckily, I want to make sure the seller knows I'm serious. I said, yeah, that $187,000. Yeah, and if you get a car wreck the day before closing, how's it going to impact you? Oh, geez, I didn't think about that. But it closed.
Have you ever seen, I actually saw a listing just a few months ago where it said on the listing, seller does not want earnest money. Did you think of I still have not been able to think of a reason why a seller
I've never
wouldn't
come
want
across
hers.
that. I really can't give a good example of why somebody would.
I saw it on the list, I didn't know if you ever seen it
Unless
or
it's a
not.
different marketing, period, where,
Uh,
let's say in, some things like tough for sellers, and sellers' prices were coming down to the values of their homes.
mhm.
They're saying, hey, I'm gonna try to accommodate buyers who might otherwise put an offer,
Right.
because they didn't have enough money available to have enough for a down payment if they, if they could get a zero down loan or whatever. That's one thing I could think that they're maybe trying to encourage in a tight market, and a dropping seller market, pricing dropping. But not very close. So does this help? So in this case, Michael, you better understand, why I was asking. Now, getting back to what is the value? I've presented the CMA, you've already acknowledged that you believe they're fair pricing. And I've conveyed the data I shared with you, the comparable sales that can justify, you can envision an appraiser, licensed appraiser, having up to $250,000, which happens to be what you're pre-approved for, if the house is listed for $240,000. Now, knowing that you're going to have to ask to make this work, are you willing to go ahead and elevate the price by asking the seller to contribute, toward all your buyer closing costs and prepaids? In this scenario, the answer is yes. So what does that tell you? So elevating by adding 3.5%, let's say, you're getting close to that 250 elevated price, and then you're immediately, let's say his decision is to elevate to,
So is that what you would recommend?
well, I would ask you, how much, what do you think is a fair price? He said, well, I want the seller to make a decision on 240. I said, how it would work is, in order for 240, and you have to have the seller paid. So we estimate what that cost is, elevate the price, and then we put in special stipulations. The seller is to pay that amount of dollars. If it's $87.50, it's going to be a lot higher than that, so that they net out the 240. And I'll explain it that way. And in fact, I'll explain it to the listing agent, but I'll assume that the listing agent doesn't have good training, saying, now your seller's actually going to get 240, because that's really a full price offer.
Balance itself out.
And
Right.
the only risk is what? To your seller. And I'll tell you as a buyer, because whenever you have an artificially raised price, what happens with the appraisal? The appraisal has to match that contract sale price. And therefore, in a presentation tip to help your chances of your offer being accepted, I had another example of this, my own buyer. I submitted the comps that I used that caused some comfort to the seller by agreeing to raise the price, saying these are sales that we feel comfortable because it's a win-win situation. We don't want as a buyer to overpay. You as a seller don't want to, have a situation where the appraisal does not support the elevated. Because I'm trying to accommodate the buyer's needs, right? And thank you so much. Lucky you were the only agent who submitted a CMA, because I didn't have the time to do it for my seller anyway. But I agree with the comps that you submitted and your buyer looked at, that, yeah, there's a reasonable good chance that they would appraise up to 250. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and feel more comfortable. Does that make sense? Rusty, does that make sense? And again, it may be that little tidbit that causes you to have your offer accepted to your buyer. In this case, it may be if you take, let's say you got a list price, and Michael said, I'd like to go ahead and give a full price net value to the seller to make a decision on 240. How would you go about getting the elevated price? Anybody know? This is how we do it. 240 is what the seller wants to make a decision on according to your buyer. You don't multiply times 0.035, 3.5%. You actually divide by 0.965. And that will elevate the contract sale price will be 48,705. And then you immediately go to special stipulation. Michael, we're gonna jump to that paragraph, and we're gonna write in there, salary to pay, $87.50 for buyer closing costs, prepaids, lender fees, closing transaction fee, and anything else that you want to make sure it's clarified. Title expenses, you want to clarify that. Remember, one of the most litigious areas on 145 or whatever, 144 is disputable, because sometimes people say buyer paid and then you have a seller allowance. Very confusing. Is it to be in addition to or part of the seller paid allowance? Why did I suggest, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and immediately jump to special stipulations. Is it began one time at about 2 a.m. in the morning. I almost forgot. I was so tired. And I went through page by page and got to this point. We elevated the price. And could you imagine if I'd forgotten to put in there salary to pay, $87.50 or whatever it is, for buyer's closing costs and so forth. Oh, talk about a complaint. I would have been negligent, right? Because that person would have been overpaying.
So how did you come up with .965?
Remember in basic math, you never realized how you apply all this math stuff. The best way to just give you an example is, take 240,000 times 0.035. What is that amount?
That's
8,400?
I said .035?
Yeah, 0.035, if you multiply it 3.5%, which most people do. And what they'll do is they'll go ahead and add that to 240, deduct it, but the bottom line is the percentages are applied to the artificial raise price, and we have a percentage applied to the higher amount. You'll have, in this case, a couple $100 difference. Isn't that interesting? And the why 0.965, the whole pie is 100%. We're taking 3.5% out of it. So that's 0.965. Isn't that interesting? And some of the things you never realize if you ever apply. I guarantee a lot of agents don't know this. I covered it in CNA. It's something you have to kind of reiterate. So let's go ahead and move on. So we put it in, and then we jump back to just go through this real quickly, and then I'll give you some presentation tips. So we filled in the purchase price with the elevated figure, and then right there, we don't. Well, here it's actually put in, Michael would put in 96.5. Amount of loan value. Some putting 3.5%. They're not asking for down payment. It's the type of loan. So they got 96.5%. I'm checking off Michael FHA loan. If you were getting rural development, we'll check off these others. Moving on, I need to go speed because you've been through this a little bit on line 64. Michael, can you comply with this? It's very important because in today's market, sellers are looking for areas where the buyer has defaulted. And within 3 days, let's say business days, within 3 days after buying agreement date, buyer should make application for loan, should pay credit for credit report, and immediately notify sellers, apply for loan, and so forth. Such certification, instruct the lender to order a credit report. Can you comply with that? Getting and start the formal process. If you were saying to me, hey, I was planning on going tomorrow to Destin for a week and a half. Do you want to interrupt your family plans, vacation plans with business? Oh, no. That's the reason why my wife would kill me if I allowed that to happen. Why do you ask? Well, I said, well, we need to modify this because you need more time. The seller has to agree with that. Did you see? Because again, I, as a listing broker, when I know that my seller has accepted a buyer getting a loan, the next day, it's under contract, the next day, a cash buyer can close in 2 weeks without loans and contingencies, they're waiving appraiser, they're waiving inspections. That seller's lucky. I regret, I like the buyer under contract, but geez, I wish I didn't agree so quickly, because I'd rather have this other one. Is there anything I can do? Well, you don't have to terminate the contract unless, it's a buyer didn't comply with the terms of the faith. It's a contract. However, let me help you to pinpoint grounds in which the buyer may be not in compliance. And this is one of them. And then at CNA, I asked you to highlight that. Also jumping down here, within 14 days is the biggest cause for having that launched buyers in default, because it says it's got hazard insurance, homeowner insurance, letter of intent to proceed, and has available funds. Sometimes lenders, they don't even order the appraisal. Down here, buyer has requested the appraisal be ordered, and affirms that the appraisal fee has been paid. Sometimes when buyers, unlike this scenario, Michael said he's got enough money for the appraisal. Many times buyers don't have that. So the process slows down, and they can't comply with that. Well, you got a listing broker like me who's got a seller that wants to see a buyer default. Man, I'm launching on their behalf a notification within 2 days. And if they can't comply, can't verify that it has been paid for, guess what? Usually the seller said, oh, that's okay, we'll refund your earnest money. And then you elevate buyer number 2 to backup, and they're off to the running. Do you think buyer number 1 is going to be happy with that agent? You didn't remind him or say, geez, I trusted you to keep track of what things I need to be mindful of. And also I fault my lender for, they're trying to save me money because they said it was kind of marginal when the underwriter approved. Well, bottom line, sometimes they shoot your buyer in the foot. The lender does. Am I going too fast? Is that clear? Is this helpful? And then, let's move on. So at this point, we didn't make any changes. We don't fill this in because we have to get a financing through a lender. We are not going to check off, because we're going to check off here. This agreement is contingent upon the face value equaling or exceeding. Again, that's why we took the time, Michael, to go ahead and have a market analysis. You and I both feel comfortable, although frankly it's opinion of value. When the appraisers get out there, it could be the unfortunate occurrence where we get there's an ultra conservative appraiser. I don't think so, but they are out there because they don't want to be burned like what happened in the recession. And they had appraisers up here, and then banks started having foreclosures, and then they started to get pressure on the underwriter. The appraiser, why did you appraise for this value? Well, the market turned down after that, So sometimes okay, moving on, because this is not a contract substance of what is in the PSA. What's PSA stand for? Good. We've already gone through this. Title expenses, in this scenario, we've got that clarified in special stipulations, right? Because you don't want to say, well, let's stick to this scenario. We'll put in here C paragraph 18 special stipulations. Title expenses is included in the seller paying allowance of $87.50, whatever the amount was. Michael, do you have a preference on closing agency? Now, first-time home buyers many times they don't, but they could. When you have somebody working in the title company or an attorney. So if they don't, what are you going to suggest? About 3 or more. Yeah, you choose. Your decision. I would say go ahead and get their estimate of cost, because there are variances and charges. But I can tell you, past clients and myself are comfortable with me recommending. Here's another tip. I got to give you a little quick disclaimer, Michael. Through my experiences, sometimes people have performed well in the past. I've actually known one case where the recommended source obviously had dementia or Alzheimer's or something. They were just clueless. Please don't hold me responsible because you got that name, and again, you're asking, I'm providing you with what you asked for, but I can't guarantee how they perform. And then you'll have, what's the purpose of the disclaimer? That's the TR form. that 3-page form, it's a COA form. It's another reaffirmation that if you ever get a complaint, yeah, it should help you. Okay, moving on. Earnest money, this is where first time home buyer, we did cover this, but you might not remember the consultative step months ago. Although legally it's not really required to have earnest money, real estate contracts, 99% of real estate contracts do recognize that buyers and sellers recognize having earnest money, some teeth and skin in the game is valuable to all parties, and therefore, what are you prepared to submit? And in this case, I think that scenario did allow for this amount, pretty much maximum, right? They got 11,000 available, of which inspection, appraisal, termite, and earnest money. You may even have to tell them, really that tells me to tell you it's doable. There's a 0.5%, and just what happens, Michael, most sellers should view that as reasonable. Make sense? And I'll also say, now just a word of caution. If your offer is accepted, either as a result immediately, which is rare, or counter offers, and you're under contract, then just be mindful, if you default with no good cause associated with the terms of this agreement, again, you not only could lose your earnest money, but also be sued for performance damages. So be careful. Likewise, the seller, you're protected if the seller changes their mind. They're not going to move to Dallas after they thought, and the reason why they're listing to sell their house, and a week before closing, they just change their mind and say, geez, this is our dream home, we didn't want the cost of living. And if they do something like that, you're protected by the default clause in paragraph 12 when you get to that. So you comfort that first-time home buyer. A lot of these things are discussion points. Again, don't come across as you got, thou shalt be exactly like this. You say, these are the considerations. You're asking my opinion on it, go ahead and say this, I want to say that. Does it make sense? It's very common for people that have been in the business as long as Rusty, myself, in real estate, to then kind of suffer behind kind of a feeling of somewhat degree of arrogance, particularly if you got all kind of designations or awards or whatever, and that you have to avoid that because you have to treat individuals. The decision making the boss is the customer or client that we're dealing with, not us. Okay, and we handled that. Here I will just summarize another thing I would say at the outcome, at the forefront of the discussion is, if you want to, I value your time, Michael. I know you've worked all day, and you're probably tired as I am. If you'd like me to go ahead and summarize the key points and emphasize those and not read every word, or if you could speed me up or slow me down, you dictate to me, because I want to go ahead and accommodate what you, and that's how I would approach it, recommend that you consider doing it that way, even on listening points, by the way. If I can speak too fast, I'm going too fast, or I'm going too slow, that because you had, closing the past, you had kind of some modicum of knowledge of how this whole process, hey, we go faster. Again, I want to do whatever you want to make you happy. Closing date, what date, Michael? I will ask my buyer. When would you like to close? Before you answer, this is what I want. To try to be earning your respect, I asked the question of the listing agent. And the listing agent said, I'm glad you asked, Lucky, because even though there's offers already on the table, the agent didn't ask. My seller saying they would like to have an extended closing date. Remember that scenario I gave you the data? Can you, and are you willing, Michael, to go ahead and have an extended closing? In this scenario, the answer is yes. Michael tells me, hey, Lucky, because I'm competing and I already have 1 or 2 offers that were rejected, I don't want to go through this again if at all possible. If that would cause my offer to be differentiated from other competing buyers' offers, I'm willing to do that because guess what? It just so happens I'm in a month-to-month rental anyway. And even though I'd like to close in 30 days, I'm willing to go ahead and spend an extra 3 months if necessary on rent. Now, in some cases, your buyer doesn't have a choice. It's already, the landlord is already rented out. But in this case, is that a good thing? I would say, Michael, that is really a good thing. And because that will allow me to help you better, because I'm going to point that out to the listing agent to talk to the seller when you have the offer. Michael has taken a special attempt to accommodate. Number one, Michael was listening and actually accommodated in your offer, and hopefully your seller will take that into consideration as a person that your seller will hopefully like to deal with from contract to closing.
But shouldn't they see it in the listing anyway? You list your property, put on there one time, I mean, when it's on.
No, on your listing agreement, you as an agent or broker with your seller, there is a spot to put in there about that, negotiable or whatever, but that is not actually in the MLS sheet itself. Anything's negotiable. But usually that is one of the questions that you open that question, asking the seller, what is the, sometimes you'll tell the seller, say, hey, they can close as soon as possible. And is that what most agents are thinking too, that most sellers, I think sellers want to get the equity to go on? I'll tell you, that is not always
Not
the case.
necessarily.
Yeah, for the reason I gave you. Frustrated. So, these are little tips that help optimize your chances for multiple offer competing. And when I teach that class, by the way, in the multiple offer competing situation, you know the statistic, percentage-wise, of how many contracts do not close? And it's competing on 2 or more offers from the get-go. And buyers or sellers, you have one contract that's moving toward closing. What's the percentage of those that don't close? 40%. This is Tennessee Association of Realtors statistics. Versus traditionally, just a single offer acceptance contract, 10%. 1 out of 10 do not close.
A lot of people don't like competition.
That's exactly right. And sometimes, if I presented, Michael, this is what I learned, there's offers on the table, do you want to pursue it? Don't be surprised if I said, I don't want to deal with it.
There's a couple of questions that I've had. First thing they say, have you had any more offers? And I tell them yes, and you don't hear anything else from them.
That may be the case, there's some who don't want to, but frankly, many times that's entirely a buyer's choice property. In this market, well, actually, 2 years ago, that person's probably not going to be able to move forward if they're reluctant to compete, because almost everything's competing. Now it's changed. There are some price ranges that are
Do you think it's because they know they're going to come up with something better than what they had in their brain at first?
Well, why 40%? I'll take just a minute to, why is it so high of a statistic? Because number one, there is sometimes buyer remorse. They elevated their purchase price to be selected, and then particularly after they have an inspection done, they see a lot of things that are wrong, and maybe they have a counter response from the seller. I'm not going to do all this stuff in this market. I got other buyers I'm interested in. They say, well, gee, I overpaying this buyer, and they start. Mr. Agent, do I have a right to terminate this contract? Well, if you're within the inspection period, yeah. Get my earnest money back? Yes. And that's one of them. So you got inspection, buyer remorse, overpaying, other instances where sometimes the agents and all parties do not look at the anticipated highest price an appraisal might support. Yeah. So all those reasons, and you got buyers who don't want to compete. And but by the same token, if a buyer said that in a seller's market, I would say, I got to be very honest with you. That attitude, there's no price range I'm seeing right now that you're not going to see anything probably but 2 or more offers. And if you really are serious about that, frankly, I don't see this being a doable situation at this point in time. I'm telling you truthfully. And let me go ahead and share with you some examples. Now that I've had with other customers, every one of them, you can give my example. 30 offers on one listing I had. I had 17 offers on one listing. Okay, that was about 3 years ago. But so how serious are you in knowing that? And I'm not going to push you. If you don't want to compete, that's fine. But by the same token, sometimes people say, well, thank you for letting me know. I really didn't realize it was that. But yeah, I want to purchase something, and I appreciate you. And also another recommendation is, you don't want to lose a sight of is everybody okay? I know I'm going to break 10 minutes ago for each hour, 5-minute break. Would you allow me to go 15 more minutes and then take a break so I can finish my modeling part?
Sure.
Okay. Absolutely. Usually the ability to learn is a function of your ability to, with your posterior, absorb. Let's go ahead and just, with that in mind, 15 minutes to cover tidbits. Possession of clothing with passing a deed. Michael, is that okay with you as far as this? It's really best from your standpoint. It puts more pressure on the seller, because they got to pack load before closing date, hope and pray the night before it closes, and if not, we have to move all the stuff back in. Customarily, that's been allowed. Special assessments, you're protected by, Michael, as first time buyer, the language reads that, in the event special assessments paid by the seller. Warranty transfer, the new dishwasher, we'll get those papers, yes.
What do you think about redundancy on a contract? Because special assessment says the seller is gonna pay it at the closing. If there are any special assessments, it says seller, but I've seen contracts where people put seller to pay special assessments, and it literally says in the line above it, seller's.
It's not necessary, there's a little risk that they do the nuance of the word, may have a slight different meaning because of what the agent put in. They want him to reaffirm, that they caused a little confusion. Their intent was good, but see, it really is not necessary. And because of the potential risk, not restating, which is a little risk, they actually use an all verbiage. And if they miss 3 letters, you change the 180-degree interpretation, right? The word not included, take it off, it's included.
Right.
It's a good question. Moving on, deed. We'll go ahead and, by the way, you have 3 different options. Both the seller and he have 3 different options on keeping that. I would never recommend that if there's a cloud on the title that you close anyway. But moving on to deed. In this case, it does have a chance, opportunity for you to put your spouse's name there. If you need any advice from a legal point of view, I would recommend your title company to go ahead and give you advice for talking about different estates, yes.
Now be careful with THDA, USDA, any of those, 100% financing programs. I just had a deal almost blow up like right at the closing table because I had a lady who wanted her husband on the deed, but he wasn't going on the actual loan. Well, I get a call from the lender while we're sitting at the closing table. Hey, who is this guy? And it's, well, that's her husband. And he said, well, he's not on the loan. He can't be on title or it'll blow the deal up. So something to
Yeah, I don't think they have deed assessment deed.
Right, he can't be on the deed, he can't be on the title, he couldn't be
I
on the
didn't
deed.
come across that.
Yeah, I didn't even know that
Have
happened.
you ever come across that?
I'm just thinking.
There was a Carrie Ann.
Say that one more time.
So I put.
Well, if you have one spouse who's a purchaser,
Right.
there's a example where both spouses' names.
No, you don't, that's how you're gonna do on that clause. You wanna talk to a title company about why you should never quit claim a deed to somebody when you're getting a loan.
Now, wait, you're talking about absolutely different set of facts. now.
Yeah, now that's-
Quit claim, that's a different situation.
Yeah, that's a totally different.
I'm just saying, be careful when you make I was going off in one direction, you're getting a little twist.
No,
Oh, no, he asked me about quit claim. Yeah, I was about to say.
Quit
claim.
Yeah, quit claim, yeah, no, this is,
definitely get the.
so,
And by the way, also suggest, hey, please don't use legalzoom.com, I'm not trying to.
can you put that one in writing?
No,
There's
that's
how
right.
people, I'm like, no. You want to talk to an attorney?
That point, quickly, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I was talking about
this specific
Yeah.
deal, we were going THDA, and so she wanted her spouse on the deed. Totally understandable. So I put him on the deed because I never thought like, hey, this is going to blow the deal up, because I've done deals where people are doing their own loan and they want to add their child on the deed, and it's perfectly fine with the lender. But I should have checked with the lender and I didn't. And we sat down for closing, and I get a call from the lender saying, hey, who's Mr. Smith here? And I said, well, that's her husband. They wanted him on the deed, and he said, well, that's added him to title, and THDA, they're going to require his income and his credit be put on the application, and so we had to take him off.
Yeah.
And maybe Michael, USDA and HDA as well. But I would ask the lender.
His wife,
Well, your Jenny's closing he and I just had,
yeah,
was a THD loan, and the closing, the purchaser was, this husband got a professional at MTSU, sold his house 10 years ago. By the way, he was one of the 10 years ago, I had 15 offers on that listing.
Oh,
In the arm, it was just and then, he rented to save while he got his PhD. And, he was the only one getting income, was homeschooling for the spouse. And, it was allowable with THD loan and closed, last week, with, both husband and wife named on the spot in the deed. And it was allowable.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Now,
That's the reason why I come the first, I've never come across.
that's what
Sometimes
makes it
maybe the
weird.
process, let's not spend too much.
Right,
It's always advisable, go ahead and.
Yeah, tell them to talk to the lender.
Any unclear,
Right.
Whoever's closing your side, title questions, that's why be comforted that you didn't have to memorize all those, definitions of joint tenancies.
Yeah, tell them to talk to would you advise them to talk to the lender about who's going on deed if you have a husband, wife, and only one's going on the line that they need to?
Talk to the closing agency as well.
So I talk to the title company,
Yeah,
maybe.
okay. Not the lender necessarily. Lead-based paint, it either applies or does not. Home inspection, Michael, this does give you some protection. I highly recommend you undertake the intent of an existing home inspection is not for cosmetic. So here you're sensitizing the buyer. Highly recommend, you're not required, Michael, as a first-time home buyer, but again, you and I, we went through the house once or twice, but I'm not a qualified licensed home contractor, builder, whatever. There's certain things my experience tells me to point out to have a person look at that, if you get a contract acceptance, and even your own special skills. Now, Michael, you actually have a lot of skills I don't have. You could choose to wait because if you feel comfortable with it. All I'm saying is that's your problem. You're the boss. If you don't have that expert in that field, you're going to take more risk. What's your call? And I'll say that $350 home inspection. You also see that it doesn't say home inspection. So therefore, in this case, it's a home in the city, you got city sewer. There's no septic tank, Gills tank to check it. Whereas some people out in the county may want to have environmentals to check the soils, or whatever. But, so you have a little counseling session on whole paragraph here, kind of summarize some of it. In the interest of time, I need to speak to you a little bit. The initial inspection, the utilities on, wood destroying insect, it doesn't say termite, but it could be wood boring insects on 9269. It says if desired by buyer or required by buyer's lender, with FHA, they're going to require that, Michael. So, just FYI, for years, there was two boxes, buyer or seller, and check off who was being asked to get the licensed wood destroying insect inspection done and paid for. Now it's just the buyer, which I don't like as well, but again, most people just.
Yeah, I wish we could go back to that. Can you bring that up to the attorneys?
I did.
Contracts?
I did, and Todd Scholler years ago said, because I thought it was because of the pressure from the banks, foreclosures, there was an abundance of foreclosures, and they were refusing, works out trying to refuse all requests for seller's expense. He said, not really, but there were some other complications, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but I was kind of surprised. And he agreed, you can see what I was saying, preference to go ahead and have it either or.
Right, yeah, that's what, I thought that was a good idea. So.
Michael, do you want anything to be excluded from the termite inspection on 275, I'll ask? And normally people will say no, or sometimes I've had, that wood shed in the back side of the property, I know it's got termites, it's run down. I really don't want to, if I'm going to have the seller to accept my offer, I'd rather have them not incur any additional charge to go ahead and add inspection of that shed in addition to the house proper. So you might have excluding the shed or whatever, but most often you're going to put in A that everything is included in the inspection. Inspection period, Michael, how much time is?
Like I saw in inspection in that example, you would say like you have a shed, but I got one right now, that I have a shed, and so they go and get an inspection, termite inspection. So you, the buyer can offer, hey, I just want the house done, and don't worry about the shed.
Yeah, you can put that in there, excluding the shed, if that's what buyer and seller agree to.
Okay.
Now beware, there are some, didn't come across, there are some lenders who, in spite of what buyers and sellers agree to, they will issue the dictum, thou shalt get an inspection. There's cases where there's a waiver and inspection, let's say on housing, and then the underwriter sees this fully executable contract before closing and say, oh, no, I see the year built, we want to have some protection for the investor, we're going to dictate before we'll give loan approval. In spite of the buyer and seller agrees to the waive, I don't like to deal with that. When you're interviewing the newer people, you don't want to find how much control of that underwriter is going to dictate. You know, they broke over one, you know, like that, and the keys. But any of that says, you know, you could deal with a really good qualified loan originator. They have their hands tied to get things done. It's not through any fault of their own. It's really the practices and policies of that mortgage broker or banker. Good answer. But here in this case, excluding the shed, there might be some of that lenders who see that, they may say, well, disregarding that, we want to make sure that that is also checked. Because if there's foreclosure a year from now, this buyer whose loan is approved by us, that there may be less value, usually not a shed, but some of these sheds are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
It could be thanks, Zach.
Yeah.
Moving on, this gives you, Michael, 3 options. The home inspector, let's say, you already know the cost, you get enough money for that, it's highly recommended. We want to put a period time in here within X number of days after the binding agreement date, shall cause inspection to be provided, and termite inspection, and basically all inspections to be, if there's any request of the seller, that has to be submitted by the end of that inspection period. Some agents don't read what it's saying there. And the inspector is out there the last day of the inspection period, and it happens to be an inspector who takes 48 hours to get a report. So here it is on the 12th day they get the report, it takes them a day to review the recommendations, and they call their agent and say, hey, I'd like to ask the seller to do 10 of these 52 recommended repair items. And the agent says, I'm sorry, you're out of gas. Now, we only had 10 days, you had 10 days to make any request of the seller, so that can't be a cause, you know. So don't miss those, that's the reason why following up is so important. But again, Michael, you'll have an option, if you get scared when the inspector says, you can terminate as long as it's within the inspection period for that reason, that you're on its way back. More often than not, you negotiate, you know, and hopefully come a win-win agreement. And lastly, you can accept the property as is where it is. But keep in mind, if there's an FHA loan like they're getting, some things like safety or water leaks, that is when you can find conditions for FHA appraisal that say these have to be corrected or we're not approving the loan, even though you waived a request and accept the property as is. It makes sense there? Sometimes, don't be surprised. Michael, remember on one of those previous homes that we looked at, there was a lot of repairs. You saw me calling your lender and saying, this is what I see. What is your opinion on whether that's going to be problematic? Because I've got an advertised seller on their home saying they're selling as is where it is. And I see some things that I think could be problematic for this kind of government loan, VA, FHA, whatever. And you actually describe or send them pictures of what you see in the little pine. Hey, thank you for sending me that. Yeah, that's going to be problematic. It's going to have to be paid by somebody. And are most buyers going to be willing to spend their own money up front before closing on a house that they don't own for repairs unless they get a renovation loan? No. Does that make sense? How your thinking is? So you don't have to know all the answers on what definitely is going to cause a contract to be terminated for repair requirements by the lending side. You know, go ahead and take that suggestion. A lot of lenders, many of them, they're accessible even on weekends. So, I'll tell you what. So, let me go ahead and try to finish. Final walkthrough the day before you might want to put in there. Michael, is that okay with you? And I'm going to recommend if the seller's not out of the property, you have all kind of boxes. You ask me lucky, I'd rather not take any more time off of work. So the night before closing the next day, they like to have the final walkthrough inspection set up. I said, that sounds reasonable, but I just got a call. I called the listing agent and checked the seller, and the seller's running behind. And they don't even know if they get all the stuff out by closing the next day. I said, with that in mind, it's your call. But if we were to go there tonight, you might find boxes or queen-size beds or big holes underneath that you wouldn't see. And I hate to have you close and go back in the house with the keys in hand and see all those holes and damage. So my recommendation is, if possible, to to do a final walkthrough 30 minutes before closing or an hour before closing, yeah. In these circumstances, that's what my recommendation would be. Isn't that what our guy did too? It was the day before, or the morning of.
Yeah,
Morning
an
of.
hour and a half before closing.
Yeah. Because there was things that had to be corrected. That was the final. Okay, survey flood, this is not in a creek in this scenario. That's where if you had a scenario like that, you want me to go ahead and add a condition, say, well, you don't like the event, subject property is in flood zone, and we're required by FEMA to have flood insurance. Now reserves the right to terminate this agreement with full insurance money. That's where, this language doesn't have to go strong enough, by the way, for future reference, for our buyer's protection. Is there anything that you read in there? It's good language, it's accurate. It's the best means of identifying bond line surveys, but do you read anything that the buyer can terminate? If there's any, if there's a discovery of a flood zone? No. So that's where I think it could be strengthened. You're working as an agent, do special stipulations, and we don't have time to go through, that's not the purpose of today's class. Brokerage, you don't have a discussion with the buyer at this point, because that's a separate deal with brokerages. Now, in this example, you don't have to do this. This is the way I do it. If the seller has accommodated my buyer's need for that seller to pay buyer's closing costs, like we validated, right? You know what I do on the pre-printed brokerage and compensation agreement between brokers? If the seller agreed to pay 3% of the pre-printed language says what? Of the purchase price, contract sale price, I go ahead and modify it. Seller pay the 3% on the contract sale price minus the seller paid allowance. See paragraph 18, 87 to 50. There's not a whole lot of money. In this case, it would be like $240, 3% of. No, excuse me. It would be it would be less than that. It would be 3% of that incremental adjustment. Close to $9,000. So there's not a whole lot of dollars there. When I present the offer, I say, Mr. Listing Agent, just to be fair, we appreciate your seller accommodating my buyer's need for closing costs. And you'll notice on the compensation agreement, the 3% is there, but it's not applied on the higher artificially raised amount. And it's applied here. Not a whole lot of dollars in there. They say, well, that's really a nice gesture on your end. You don't have to do that. But you don't have to. You don't have to do that. There's people in our office that don't do it that way. That's okay. There's nothing ethically wrong with it. I feel icky by asking the seller to pay an amount that they're not getting. In fact, they're paying a higher amount as an accommodation to my buyer. I'm thinking, golly, that's a double whammy. That's what I do. Do you understand? But again, you don't have to use that. It's just what I do. And let's just finish it off. Cameron, you have a comment? Agreement? Disagreement?
Oh, I was just saying that the team, we get paid on the purchase price, like Jeremy.
Yeah. That does
Now, when you work with builders, yeah, if you need closing costs or anything, builders won't pay you on they only pay you on what they.
Be careful about generalizing all those. You got a builder or data master soon.
Now, yeah, David's good about it.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, Annette, also when she looks at the buyer side, she does not adjust it for the same reason, because on the other side, they pay oftentimes for buyers who don't. They pay that architect. So you can see why she has that feeling. My only point is looking at a fairness standpoint. But again, I'm not saying that the Tabor team practice is wrong. It could be argued either way. You do your own.
I like it where you take it the right way, the fair way.
I feel more comfortable with it. Not that none of us are perfect, but I think that's a better.
I mean, you're reimbursing the seller for paying something. Why should you get paid?
And guess what? I've had buyers who say, you explained that. Thank you. You didn't have to do that, but by doing it, you're actually helping the quality of my offer, chances of the offer being accepted, even with a few dollars savings. But the seller, thank you for doing that. It shows Jennings how selfless you are. And I'm going to recommend it everybody. Seriously, you get that I've gotten that kind of response. And it's only over a few dollars savings. Everything is reduced writing. We can go pretty quickly. You've seen this before, so I'm going to skip. Exhibits, what are you going to have? Michael, we're going to include the confirmation of agency. You've already signed the buyer agency agreement, which is I'm going to designate an agent to represent you as a buyer. In this case, there may be a survey that we include as an exhibit. Here, it could be a copy of the earnest money check,
Did you put the FHA addendum in there?
Yes, good point. The FHA requirement, is a required addendum. Better go ahead and fill it out on Fran. Thank you for reminding me. There are some, you can get by actually having a lender saying, we need that FHA addendum, a week after, you got a contract. Go ahead and get it done on Fran. So thanks for the reminder. And
So we put everything, it used to be you didn't put any of that in when you submitted the article. Just
there's certain things that are not recommended anymore, and one is the MLS. Goes out of sheet. Well, years ago, we used to recommend including that.
Yeah,
Because if you're tired, you forget that something was included, and you had a commission sale, and all items I cited in MLS number or whatever are included in the sale. And it could be contradictory versus what the sellers and buyers agreed to through negotiations. So, and even the property commission disclosure, sometimes it's arguable. I've seen attorneys argue it should be included, not
Would
included,
you,
for similar reasons, not, yeah.
would you include the FHA and VA loan addendum prior to accepted contract or do it after an accepted contract?
Right, see, that's, thanks for asking, because my intent is to clarify. I would recommend doing it at the time.
Even if you have to go back, even if you know you're probably gonna get back into a counter offer situation where you
Yeah.
have to go amend it or.
Sure.
Okay.
Just a minute.
Now, I was about to say now, would you use an actual amendment or would you do a whole new VA FHA addendum?
I would probably, the simpler way is just, use the, amendment form, the bank amendment form.
Okay,
Cite, modify PSA, whatever needs to be changed, and also in this case, the FHA addendum. Coordinate that kind of thing, so.
Okay.
Thanks. And just finishing off, that gives you an idea, if it was a septic tank, any septic permits would be exhibit. It could be well, we get enough. Special stipulation, in this scenario only, we would have the solid paid allowance. I would ask, Michael, can you think of anything else that would protect your interests? I know you've got $3, and I know how protective and how loving your family is. Have you had a chance to check the Tennessee Registry of Sexual Offenders? And if Michael says no, I'll tell you what, here's the site, pull up in 5-10 minutes. If you tell me, do we have to do that? I can understand the importance of it, because I don't want to live next door to a predator. I'll tell you what, we could put in special stipulations that this contract is contingent upon the buyer's right to have 3 business days following buyer agreement date, to have the right to review and determine if satisfactory the registry. And if unsatisfactory, notice can be given by the end of that time period with the right to have the full return of purchase money. Does that sound good to you, Michael? Yeah. Check my, I always have is this clear language I've included for you? Because if it's not clear to you, I need to work on it, making sure it's clear. Other things you might have in here are not, I didn't put in this scenario, I don't think, is the school zones, right to review the fence that the person wants to build, or detached garage. You want to make sure that you have your contingencies outlined. But I made this look pretty simple, and that's everything. Okay, and then lastly, to finish off, Michael, how much time would you like to give the seller to make a response? I just happened to ask the seller. Cue to you, those questions I asked the listing agent prior to him coming in. How much time would your seller like to have to give a response? Thank you for asking. We feel pretty confident within 24 hours. Or, tell you what, we already have several offers. In some cases, you have a showing period that the deadline is certain. You know the time frame to give. But if you've got a bank-owned property, they may say it's Friday. I've dealt with this. Listening to saying I've dealt with this seller enough to know that they're not going to even review all the offers through the weekend. In fact, I'd suggest if the buyer's okay to give a noon on Tuesday expiration, just to make sure they give enough time to have seller reviews. Make sense? You dealt with this on the deal with HUD. Or said it's more of a dictated.
gotta do it now.
Deadlines. Okay. Make sure we'll put all this information. Now, presentation. I'll tell you what. Let's take a 5-minute, and I'll do a 5-minute tips on presentation. Taking a 5-minute break.
You literally answered my, I was gonna say, can you take a few minutes and go over like how you present your offer to that?
Yeah.
Which I was about to say, what you just said you were gonna do, sweet.
Okay.
Literally, I was about to ask that before we went on break.
All right. Yeah, you want to pause?
Perfect. Nobody ever knows what they're doing when they first first get started. That's the beauty of this business.
Oh, yeah, it's building block, right, yeah, don't be overly concerned. I tell you, it helps you. The first offer I wrote,